Hey, what's going on, everybody? Pat and Austin back at it again with another obscure reference gaming news podcast, name pending. Um, we're back. It's been a minute, Austin. How you been?
It's it's been a minute. I was sick, and then I was on vacation in Tejas, and now we're back. Sorry, I told everyone we were gonna be back for the Xbox State of Play. No, the Xbox. Uh, what do they call it? Uh, I don't remember. Whatever they call it, I said we were gonna be back for that, and we weren't. So you can put all the blame on me. I was sick.
So, story number one is actually a call for a new co-host. Nah, it's been a minute. Obviously, we're all happy you're healthy and ready to talk about some gaming. But I think we should just jump right in. What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right, so we're gonna hit the top with the story that's been kind of making the rounds as of the end of last week. It's Baldur's Gate is getting a TV series continuation at HBO from Craig Mazin of all people. We go to Deadline. Nelly Andriva writes, "This will be not a adaptation like The Last of Us is. This will be a continuation of Baldur's Gate's story, moving on from that." And Craig Mazin will be the writer, the executive producer, and the showrunner. That's what I was looking for. And then you also have some people over at Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast on as producers and consultants. Uh, so I think I'll just stop right there, Austin. How does that make you feel? He
When you
smiles.
sent this in the group chat, I think my response was I hate everything about this,
Hmm.
and that was probably an exaggeration, but I'm known for hyperbole every once in a while. Uh, I I I grow less and less uh, enthralled with Craig Mazin being involved.
Hmm.
I think if you had said this to me after Last of Us season one, I probably would have been more excited. And now after Last of Us season two, less so. And I really think that the biggest issue, even more so, I guess that you could say they're on the same level. I don't like the idea of doing a continuation show. I
Hmm.
think that kind of like what the Mass Effect games had an issue with is when you have to put into concrete detail what the stories are that are true in a choose your own adventure style RPG like they are, it either you kind of like reset it like Mass Effect 2 did, where nothing really mattered all that much, only a very small set of decisions, or you're going
Hmm.
to piss off a bunch of people by saying like this is the definitive truth of what we're saying is the story going forward, and this isn't.
Hmm.
um and so for those reasons I'm kind of mm, tepid about this one. We'll say I'm not going to write off Craig just yet, and according to what you were saying before we got on here, he's a big D&D guy, so maybe that'll help him in this
Hmm.
one. But I just don't know that, like, I don't think he really understands The Last of Us Part 2, and so that concerns me. Not that they're the same kind of story, but that
Yeah.
maybe he won't understand this one either.
Well, yeah. Gosh, because I see Craig Mason's name. I'm someone who's watched all of Chernobyl and half of The Last of Us. I didn't watch all of season two, for probably a lot of the same reasons you didn't particularly enjoy that season. Um, it just didn't really grab me. It seemed like they adapted the parts of Last of Us Part Two that I've played and kind of took them in a different direction, and that didn't super sit well with me. And I don't know how much of that is Craig's fault. I don't know how much of season one or Chernobyl that are incredible are due to him. Um, all we can really point to is that, I'm looking at this Verge article. He says he's been a DM who's been playing the game for the past 15 years. So, um, boy probably knows his stuff about D&D, which is, if you don't know, where Baldur's Gate takes place in that world. So I I'm with you. I think doing a continuation of a game that has unlimited endings, where every ending that a player gets feels earned to them because of all the choices they made leading up to that. Uh, and trying to like make a continuation off of that just kind of feels like we're setting in stone what the true canonical ending is. Um, Even if I don't I say all that, but it's so easy to see that and then just walk away and say nope, that's not what I want, and you never have to interact with this piece of media ever again. You can just go back to the game and do your fifth playthrough or something. So I understand why people might be hesitant about this. I know this game means a lot to a lot of people. I'll say final word on is I'm tepid on it as well.
I think the thing that they put themselves in a weird spot, and I you get
Mm-hmm.
why they did it this way. Of like they're not making a Baldur's Gate story, right? Like you could very easily say we're going to put a new story, a continuation of the story in the Baldur's Gate world.
Mm-hmm.
But what they said is it's a continuation of Baldur's Gate 3, which
Right.
means they did that obviously because Baldur's Gate 3 did so well comparatively to 2 or 1 or any of the other
Mm-hmm.
pieces of Baldur's Gate that are out there. But what that means is people are now you're going to have Astarion and you're going to have Shadowheart and Karlach and you
Mm-hmm.
know whatever the case may be, which means that you definitively have to say something about them. You
Yeah.
have to say they are in this spot or they caused this thing or whatever the case may be. And so you're in a catch 22 of like you want the popularity of Baldur's Gate 3, but now you're kind of held to the standard of you have to set the rules on what Baldur's Gate 3 was and is
Mm-hmm.
in this version. And ultimately what this means is like if everyone hates it 4 years from now, they'll just say like that's an Elseworlds version of what happened and there'll be a new this is the true canonical future of Baldur's Gate. But it puts them in a tough spot.
It
And
does.
I
Yeah.
think with Craig, it's like that episode, what is it? Episode I can't remember now. Where they have the whole episode with the guy who plays Ron Swanson and all of that, and they
Oh
expand
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
universe
Mm-hmm.
of The Last of Us,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's their love story. That's a great episode. None of that is in uh, The Last of Us,
No.
and so clearly, it's not that um, Craig couldn't write really good new stuff. That was almost entirely new, and that was maybe
Mm-hmm.
the best episode that they've done. Period.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, I just think when it comes to the second season, and the reason that I it kind of soured me on Craig a bit is just I don't think that, and this is not, I guess, not just Craig because I've heard Neil Druckmann talk about it this way too, and I just don't think that they really understood the concept of their own uh, piece of media, and
Yeah.
so when they went to adapt it, they did a lot of things that I just don't understand and don't make a ton of sense. And that's worrying when we're talking about you're not adapting, but you still need to understand the characters, right? You need to understand the crux of all these characters and where they are and where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen evidence of that not being the case already in another video game adaptation.
Yeah. And I'd argue a little. I pushed back a little bit against that because yeah, we had that episode with Ron Swanson with the what is it, Tom and Frank, I think are the characters' names, which is completely different than how it happens in the game. You're right, and I think it really captures part of the essence of what makes The Last of Us The Last of Us, which is that love can change us so fully and completely, and it's what drives Joel throughout The Last of Us and Ellie through The Last of Us Part Two. Um, and again, I've only seen like 2 episodes of season two, so I can't speak to any of that. But the little bit I did see, it felt like they were touching on something like that, where it's like this wasn't in the game, but it's still really powerful, and that's Catherine O'Hara's character, rest in peace, the therapist in season two. With the little bits I saw of her and Joel, it's like that's good stuff. So I think there's potential for that here. I It says here that he's put 1,000 hours into Baldur's Gate 3, so I think if anyone has an idea of how this
Which,
world is, how
yeah,
these characters are, I think he probably has a good idea. Um, So I mean, and this isn't me saying this show is going to be a surefire hit. This is going to feel just exactly like Baldur's Gate did. Um, this is just, at least some people on this team have an idea of what this world is and what these characters sound like. And like you said, if it's not, then hey, we can write it off as a one-off adventure, kind of like the Dungeons and Dragons movie. Which where's that sequel, huh? Where's that
That's not coming.
continuation? Ah,
It's not. It's not coming.
that was.
I know you guys were higher on it than I was. I will say, regardless of the quality of the story, one, I'll be there just
Hmm,
because. But just the idea of seeing the Baldur's Gate characters on screen, like with the big money, big budget that HBO can put behind it is exciting. Like the
yeah.
idea of seeing it is great.
Hmm.
It'll just be my questions are more about the story.
Yeah. I'll be curious about that. I think this game is so personal to a lot of people. I will say the one run I have of this with my friends, we just straight up killed Lizelle in like the first hour of the game. I have a feeling she'll show up in this game because people like her, and it's like that's not my ending. That's not my ending. This is a fake story. So I
Mhm.
mean, we'll
That would be
see.
like if Rex didn't show up in a Mass Effect show.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly like that. What if we just ignore the genophage as a concept? Let's just forget about that. What's a Krogan? But those are just our thoughts on it. I think we've seen a couple of different reactions to this. I think I don't know what was this when the story dropped Friday. My first exposure to this was Jeff Keighley tweeting about this, and it was him
Mm.
saying that Larian has not been in communication with this team, and this guy Cromwell saying true. And we'll touch on that later. According to Sven Vink, Craig Mazin, he has reached out to Craig Mazin. They have talked. So I don't know about that. But um, we look at Cromwell's Twitter. He's oh gosh, man, this site sucks.
My
It-
mind says creative lead, but
yeah,
I'm unsure.
that sounds right. I was gonna say creative lead or creative producer. He's definitely part of the creative team. He has a string of posts here on Twitter saying,
He's been known recently for his long-winded
mhm.
tirades.
Yeah, I
This
think
reads director of publishing at Larian
director of publishing.
Studios.
Okay, okay. And I think we will take a look at his response, and then we'll look at Sven's response to this, because I think it paints two different and interesting perspectives on this. Cromwell starts. I've spent the last 8 to 10 years of my life with the writers and creators of Baldur's Gate 3, and they're the most incredible storytellers and creators in the space. Our only hope is that they both get the credit deserved and the characters represented at the same level as the game. I genuinely don't think anyone can trump our writers. Our stories are built by fierce camaraderie and resolve. I've watched them write and write and write through respect for audience and material and come up with some of the finest shit I've ever played. I hope TV allows for the same thoroughness. Don't abandon hope, but do expect the world. That's the job. Um, so that's him, and he's had several other posts where he's made his thoughts clear on this. Um, but that's like the big one that people have been quoting. We look over at Sven Vink's post that's quoting the article, and he says, "Crazy that a story that started out in a small hotel conference room eventually evolved into a narrative inspiring enough for it to become an HBO series. We worked incredibly hard on making Baldur's Gate 3 worthy of its legacy. Its characters and narratives are the results of many teams working together, and I think I can speak for them all in saying that they'll think this is cool and hope that what comes next will enjoy the same level of passion. The endings of BG3 were created so they could serve as narrative soil for new adventures. There's plenty of directions they could go. I'm eager to find out which ones Craig and his team will pick. He's reached out for a chat, so we'll have the opportunity to tell him our thoughts. Crossing fingers that the story we're cooking up for Divinity will eventually grow to the same heights. Certainly putting in the hours, smiley face. Uh, all right. So where where do you want to start with that, Austin?
I actually think both things can be true at the same time
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that the way that Sven lays it out here makes me think that like they're gonna have a conversation in the sense that like they'll talk,
Mm-hmm.
but they won't actually have any input. on what's happening.
Probably not.
And
Yeah.
so it can be true, like they're not involved and they're going to talk about it, and both of those things are true at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I honestly think that the first one you were reading from there from the director of publishing
Mm-hmm.
is the way you should react in these cases. It's like that you and the team that you have did the best that you possibly could, and you put all of this blood, sweat, and tears in
Mm-hmm.
over such a long period of time. And how can you expect someone else to live up to that?
Right.
You know, not saying it can't be done, but like what it takes. And so I think that's a perfectly reasonable take to have when you're directly involved. Like
Mm-hmm.
we spent so much time and effort on this. How like it's going to be really hard to live up to that, and I hope it does, but who knows?
Yeah.
Uh, whereas Sven's is more just kind of like it's crazy that we're here and this is what's happening. But I really don't like. I don't. His whole point about they're gonna have a conversation. I really don't think it is anything. It's the
Yeah.
sundressing kind of a conversation of like you get to put in a headline. We've talked to the creators of Baldur's Gate 3,
Mm-hmm.
not they were involved in creating this
It
show.
almost feels a little performative too, I think. Like, yeah, I'm sure they'll talk, but yeah, I don't know if it'll actually amount to too much since, ultimately, and this is where kind of my perspective comes down on this. Like, I totally, completely understand where Cromwell's coming from. I think from a creative's perspective, I think it makes a lot of sense that you would be just outraged by this. Maybe outrage is a bit strong of a word, but like upset, let's say. Um, and I think that you know, get upset about it in the moment. Hope that's good. I think is reasonable. I think I agree with that. But I also think that with a property like Dungeons and Dragons, like Baldur's Gate, which started at BioWare back in the day, like this was never their world. This, I mean, as much as they put the blood, sweat, and tears, and you can say that these are their characters, this isn't their property, and it sounds kind of harsh. And I know plenty of other people that work on like projects like Star Wars spin-offs or Marvel spin-offs, like they have the same issue where it's like, well, this is my character. I spent months and maybe even years working on it and I don't even know the rights to that. Um so from like a business perspective, it makes sense, but it's still a little upsetting from like a creative standpoint. So I get where Cromwell's coming from. I get where, all the creatives that Larian might be coming from with all this. And I think Sven, I think his take is more optimistic and definitely kind of more of a self-reflective, like, this is what we've done, this is a result of that, and I think this could be really cool. Let's hope that what we're doing now can be just as good. I don't know, I like that take too. So
It it kind of sounds to me more like, uh, and this is not to say that Crumb didn't have anything to do with this decision, but it
no,
feels
of
more like
course.
Sven was like, "Yeah, I'm ready to move on," and so they moved on to something else.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds more like, our other guy here is kind of more like, "I have more to say." And so, because there's the rumors out, or not the rumor, I should say, they were planning a Baldur's Gate 3 DLC, and then decided not to do it and move on to
Yeah,
Divinity. And
it's
so
yeah. Mm-hmm.
clearly people thought they had more to say, right? And so that's kind of where it sounds like more to me of like Sven's kind of like, we did our thing and that was great. And I knew when I moved on that eventually Baldur's Gate 4 is going to be made, or whatever the next Baldur's Gate thing was going to happen, and
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to be involved, and I'm totally okay with that. And Cromwell may not be as much on that same level.
Yeah. Yep. And I know. I don't know. I've heard rumblings that like Larian and Wizards of the Coast slash Hasbro are kind of not on great terms, so I think that's part of why the DLC didn't happen. And I fairly certain a new Baldur's Gate game has been announced, and it's definitely not Larian that's being made by. So for me, I've already just kind of put it to bed that Larian and Baldur's Gate are just kind of done once this last patch of Baldur's Gate 3 came out. So it's been, yeah, knowing, having all that as context, I don't know. I don't know where I'm trying to drive at this point. I understand where everyone's coming from here, all the same. And yeah, I don't know. I lost it. I lost my train of thought.
I just think you had to move on. Like
Yeah.
if you're so like you take Sven's point of view in this because he's the CEO of the company, right?
Yeah.
You have to give up like in the range of 40 to 60% of all revenue that you make off the game to Wizards of the Coast for making this game.
Hmm.
And that makes a lot of sense when you're Larian pre Baldur's Gate 3 who has to do early access and get all this money to be able to create games.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes a lot less sense when you are now Larian post Baldur's Gate 3 and you have the confidence and money that you can just go make something and the audience will be there.
Yeah.
So then it's like, why do I need Baldur's Gate as a property? Who's then Wizards of the Coast is going to take a huge haircut of the money that I should take,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm going to bring in, right? And so it becomes a math equation of like I can go do Divinity where I get to play in the same world, the same fantasy world, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not going to be the same characters, but I get to play with the same elements. I'm still making a CRPG. They've already said it's going to be, turn-based like Baldur's Gate.
Mm-hmm.
They get to do all of that and keep all the money. So it
Yeah.
you have to be like very certain of like you have a very specific thing you want to do or something like that, or have uh, just no care for the money side of it and only the creative side of it. And that's not to say Sven doesn't, but Sven
No,
also
of
lived through the
course.
times where his company almost went bankrupt and he
Yeah.
spent all of this time making games that no one cared about before even like
Like Divinity.
Divinity Original Sin 1 and
Yeah.
Divinity Original Sin 2. Like, but before that, they were making, like educational games and games for hire for a very long time just to keep the lights on.
Right.
Like, so he has a much more of like
A realist
uh
perspective,
like
maybe.
this is just from a financial business perspective the thing you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean they're now going to make two games, big games coming out, and that's going to really sink or swim the company going forward. So
Yeah. Yep. And it'll be interesting to watch, and it'll be interesting to see how the show starts coming together over the next however long it takes for it to come out. I'm totally unfamiliar on TV show timeline, production timelines.
can't wait for 5 years to go by, we get 8 episodes, and then another 3 years to go by before we see any more
Yeah.
content. I'm super
Don't
excited for that.
don't get me started. Uh, but if you want, hey Austin, what if you could get a
Mm.
cool story over the course of a year? How does that sound?
Ooh,
All
is it
right.
every year? That's intriguing. I don't have to
Ooh.
wait.
Well, we'll have to wait and see, but you don't have to wait too long because Overwatch is dropping the 2. That's right. Story number 2 we're talking about Overwatch's facelift, for lack of a better term. The Reign of Talon is on the way. We're starting a new I don't even know what you want to call it. Um, like a
Content release schedule.
new content release schedule, new season, a new way they're doing seasons. It all starts. It's already started. They've released Vendetta as a new playable hero. We'll get. I'm just making sure I'm doing my count right. Yeah, that's 5 new heroes tomorrow as of recording. The February 10th, at the start of the first season of the Reign of Talon, which is a year-long event. I'm just gonna quick hit the big beats. So you're gonna get a year-long story, like we mentioned, that'll be referenced in in-game events, motion comics, new voice lines, animated hero trailers, and short stories, all of which will be accessible within the game. So you won't have to miss a beat if you're trying to stay up to date with Overwatch lore. Because trust me, Austin, Overwatch players care about the lore. Um,
They do indeed.
so yeah, like I said, 5 new heroes. We got Domina, who's a tank. She'll be with town. We got Emmer. I don't know how to say his name. Who is also with town. You got Mizuki, a new support here. You got Anran, who's a DPS, and Jetpack Cat. I don't know if you know this, Austin. We've been wondering about Jetpack Cat for years.
I did see the photo, and it is a cute cat.
It's a very cute cat and is very real, and is already infuriating. I've seen videos of him throwing players off the stage. It's this game's
Mm.
version of Jeff the Baby Land Shark. Uh, so they're also getting new role sub roles and passives. So basically, what that means is you have tank, DPS, and support. You'll break those down a little bit further, you'll have bruiser tanks, so like reduces critical damage received while at critical health gain movement speed. So that'll be, well, I won't get into specifics necessarily, but yeah, you also have initiators. Staying airborne lightly heals you. You get the idea. These are different offshoots of the three main roles. You also have a conquest meta event, which almost feels reminiscent of what they might do in World of Warcraft when it was or no, the Alliance versus. You're gonna have to help me out here. I was a baby then.
What are you talking about? I was roughly the same age as you.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't know.
Was it the Order and the Alliance? I don't. I'm blanking. People know what I'm talking about. But you'll either join up as a part of town or a part of Overwatch, and you'll complete missions tied to the lore, and you'll I forget if it actually
The Horde is what you're looking
the
for. The Horde.
Horde. Oh my god, I've lost major gamer cred. Oh my god. Um, so it feels reminiscent of that. And there's going to be a UI slash UX refresh. And from what I hear, it looks pretty clean and looks nice. Those are the big major beats. There's new updates to Stadium and other little stuff. They're getting a Hello Kitty clap. Who gives a fuck? Um, Austin dropping a
I actually
two.
didn't know that part. What?
Yeah, Hello Kitty clap. Who gives a shit?
Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense.
Oh, they've done a shit ton of collabs already, and they're not stopping anytime soon. How does this make you feel, Austin?
Um. Well, all right. We'll just start here.
Hmm.
Those of you who have been around on the channel know of my disdain for HBO Max's continual redesigning of the wording of their streaming service and how stupid it has been. And this is similar but bothers me in a different way, in the sense that it pisses me off that they did Overwatch 2 for the marketing of it, right? So Overwatch 1, they had it, they did it for all this time, then they wanted to do this big refresh of the game. They were going to bring in all this PvE stuff that never came. They were doing all this stuff, and so they were going to call it Overwatch 2, and they did that so that they could be like, "Look, guys, everyone come back." Because notoriously, it's a lot easier to get people to buy a second game than it is to get people to buy DLC or what they think is DLC. And so they wanted the marketing cred of being able to call it Overwatch 2. And now that enough time has gone by, they want to go back and get rid of that so that they can just be like, look, it's Overwatch and it's always been Overwatch and it's one big Overwatch family. And so they're basically just taking the marketing win at the cost of coherency with understanding what the fuck Overwatch is. And that kind of is the kind of thing that annoys me, in the sense that it's not actually harmful to the game necessarily, like the game you're playing the game, but it's just like the capitalism winning over the art.
Mm.
It just that on its own bothers me. Uh, and then I am, will call this myself, interested in the idea that they're going to have a year-long story, presumably every year. They'll have a story like this. Notoriously, this is exactly what the uh, team was going to do with Concord. Their whole idea was that they were going to revolutionize the way that they tell storytelling in these types of games as a service. And it was going to be these little pieces throughout time, and it was going to tell the story over a longer period of time. And we know notoriously Concord lasted days
We,
after it released.
yeah.
Definitely not a month.
No.
So we never got to see that play out. So we'll see that here. Um, but this is just wrought with issues. And this is kind of what happened to Destiny 2, where things aren't going well. So you change the way you're going to give people new content. And then that doesn't satisfy people. So then they change the way they're going to do content again, and then change the way they're going to do content again, just kind of chasing their own tail, trying to be able to keep up with the amount of content that is needed. So I'm intrigued by the concept, but I'm going to wait and see when the first bump in the road comes, and see what do they do when someone is 3 months into a story and they hate the characters and the ideas. Are they going to stick with it, or are they going to start over? Are they going to change the way that they give out content? Are they going to, continue the path through the hard times and really stick to their creative guns? I don't
Hmm.
know.
Yeah, as a longtime Overwatch guy who's been playing, oh my god, it's been 10 years. Um, it's I was there when Overwatch 2 dropped, and they throughout that entire production, them claiming, "Oh, we're gonna change everything. There's gonna be a story mode. There's gonna be PVE. There's gonna be all this stuff," and that didn't happen. Um, and it quickly became a side mode they launched like 2 or 3 years after Overwatch 2 actually came out. Like it just was an afterthought to them. And I think that was a big pain point for a lot of Overwatch players who love the story, who love the lore, who love the history of this world and these characters. Um, and that I think that was mistake number one from them. I think they've been able to maintain a decent um, frequency of new drops, new characters, and maintaining a games as a service that with the new cosmetics and season passes and all that. And I don't think this will change any of how that works. I think this is mainly a big marketing beat, like you're saying. It's promising what Overwatch 2 initially promised, and that is a story mode. Not necessarily a mode in that, it's just, here's the lore if you want to interact with it, but if not, we're adding 5 new heroes, we're adding 1 hero in every season. It almost feels to me like they're chasing after a little bit of Marvel Rivals here, with the cadence cadence was the word I was looking for. God damn it. Anyway, with the cadence at which they're dropping these heroes, with 5 for season 1 and then 1 new hero every season, I think they kind of hit that cadence a little bit, but I honestly have not been paying attention too much. Whereas Marvel Rivals, you're getting at least 2 heroes every season, and they're all free. And I think Overwatch is switching to that. I think they switched to that a while ago, but I think a lot that too was also chasing after the high of what Marvel Rivals was achieving. So I'll be. We'll see how this plays out. I honestly don't know, because I think you have the initial pump up here. Like we have a story here that player count creeped past Battlefield 6 and Call of Duty's concurrent players on Steam, hitting its biggest peak in years. And are they able to maintain that? Speaking from someone who has played this game for years, I doubt it. Someone who played Marvel Rivals when that dropped, I seriously doubt it. Like it just happens with any ongoing multiplayer game like this. You just kind of lose a player count over the years, and unless you have like a big beat halfway through the year, you're not gonna be able to maintain what you have right now. So I'll be interested to see how they're able to maintain this, aside from a new hero and a year-long story.
The thing that's super interesting about this too is somehow, I guess somehow is not the way to put that because it's
Mm.
pretty obvious why. But Marvel Rivals basically dragged Overwatch out into the deep side of the pool to play in their realm. Like, even though, in my opinion, they probably shouldn't have, in the sense that like Marvel Rivals notoriously has the issue of its competitive scene being awful because they add so many heroes constantly and they don't have like a real meta that is enjoyable to play. And
Hmm.
because Marvel Rivals doesn't have like a huge competitive scene that exists, that's okay, right? Not every game should be geared towards competitive, even hero shooters or games that are competitive like this. Like
Hmm.
you can make a game like Marvel Rivals where the point is just like everyone can enjoy it because it's like Spider-Man shows up and then Loki and then Iron Man and then whatever the case may be, right? And you just have
Right.
you just enjoy playing the type of game it is and it's got characters that you know. So it doesn't need to necessarily be that, but Overwatch built the biggest, tried to be the biggest esports league in Overwatch League, and that kind of failed. And then they've created, their new kind of version of that after the fact. And so they were playing in this world of like, there's a meta that you have to kind of cater for in this competitive piece that's kind of like the marketing for this game. And so the idea that you're going to add 5 characters all at once and then you're going to continually add characters really quickly means that Overwatch is going to have to turn a lot really quickly if it's going to try and swim in the pool with Marvel Rivals instead of being more on the competitive side, like Overwatch tried to be
Hmm.
in its era.
Yeah, and I remember saying, I'm sure if you go back to our content back when Marvel Rivals first dropped, like the main draw of that is the IP. Like you look at the gameplay, Overwatch beats that hand over fist, like no problem. Uh, so really, yeah. How do you attract more players? Is it the competitive scene? I know Overwatch League isn't a thing anymore. So how much are they able to draw on that? It's Blizzard, so they can pump the money into it if need be. And I don't know. We'll see. I think it's gonna be because I'm looking at current players right now. I'll be curious to see what it looks like when the new season drops tomorrow. But right now, Marvel Rivals, yeah, is doubling what Overwatch has as far as current players go. So we'll see how that goes. But I'll be keeping an eye on that. That's for sure. Even Deadlock's up there. Look at that. Um, but yeah, I guess as far as other ongoing multiplayer games go, we have this other report here to kind of like divert a little bit, and then we can kind of talk more about the what do you want to call it? Games as a service scene as a whole. Um, Riot Games is announcing that it's downsized its development team behind 2XKO, which, if you're not familiar, is the League of Legends fighting game. Just weeks after it left early access and launched for consoles. This is from Andy Robinson over at VGC. Um, in a statement, the developer said that following its full launch on January 21st, the free to play title hasn't reached the level needed to support a team of this size. What is this sentence? Sorry, hold on. The free to play title, quote, hasn't reached the level needed to support a team of this size long term. I'm not having a stroke. That's how that's written. So I don't know. Um, Get it together, Andy Robinson. Jeepers. Um, so executive producer Tom Kenn claimed that affected players would be supported either with roles on different teams or a minimum of 6 months of notice pay and severance. Let's see. We are reducing the size of 2XKO team. You know, the decision wasn't made lightly. I want to see if they have a player count in here. I'm not seeing one necessarily, but I think we can kind of take the hint from this that it wasn't what they were looking for. So obviously, of course, our hearts go out to everyone that is affected by that. And I was very tempted to make a joke there. I'm not going to. I'm gonna leave it at that. But Austin, League of Legends? That's like a big, major, well-known IP. It's probably one of the most played multiplayer games on a daily basis. A fighting game seems, maybe not the most biggest popular idea they could have come up with, but still seems like a hit. What's going on? Where did we go wrong?
I mean, I think, I think that the everyone's chasing the games as a service, right? Because if you're the one that hits it big and you become the next Counter Strike, or you become the next League of Legends, or you become the next Overwatch, whatever the case may be, you could make tens to hundreds of billions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And that is incredibly attractive to every business that's ever existed. If I said, hey, you could spend 100 million, 200 million, $500 million and make $25 billion, would you do it? Obviously, you would say yes if you knew it was guaranteed, right? But the thing is, you're taking a high risk bet for the high reward. Games as a service, the hit rate's got to be like something like 1 in 10. I mean, you're talking about super rare based on the number that of times people try versus the number of times it hits. And it
Mm-hmm.
happens with every genre, right? It happened with hero shooters. It happens with kind of like S&D style, Counter Strike, Valorant style. It happened with battle royales. It happened with all of the different ones, and now we're even seeing with extraction shooters. There, that is kind of the one that's working right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you hit the right genre at the right time, and you get a little bit of luck, you can turn that 200 million dollars, $300 million into continuous ongoing revenue, and that's great. But 90% of the time, 80% of the time, you're gonna go to zero, and
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna be the Concord that spent. I guess you're gonna be Sony, who bought whatever their Firewatch Studios or whatever they were called,
Mm-hmm.
uh, for a reported like $400 billion or $400 million or whatever, not billion, $400 million, and you're gonna light that all on fire and close down the studio less than a month after it comes out.
Right.
Now, I think Concord is the worst version of it because they chased a prior version that works, right? Like the hero shooter was kind of dead, and then they were like, let's put the paddles on it and bring it back to life with
Mm-hmm.
a $400 million injection. Now, I guess I say that, and on the other hand, Marvel Rivals came out after that, before that, around the same time as that,
After,
and
yeah,
is is making buku bucks. So, the hero shooter was dead, but only dead until the next good one came. And
yeah.
so, maybe that's not, that point is not necessarily as true as I thought, but I just think you have to have a bit of luck, you have to hit the right trend, and that's just not that easy. So if you're Sony and you spend a couple $1 billion on 5 bets, there's a chance, like what happened, that you go 0 for 5. And they only really released one or two, right? Like they were gonna do a Last of Us
Yep.
uh game, and that never came out.
Nope.
Concord did come out, and it also failed. There was talks of the Horizon Zero Dawn one coming for a very long time, and now we have this like 3-person co-op PvE thing that came out, which I think is kind of like an offshoot of what they were looking at doing with a multiplayer version of that.
Mm.
And so Sony burned just a ton of money trying to do
Ton of money.
this.
Yeah.
And if you have one Destiny, which they kind of did slash kind of do, however that works out, like you can kind of pay for all of those bets, right? It's the same way, like the way that the movie industry has gone, where it's like the big studios would rather spend 150 to $200 million chasing a couple $1 billion than they would make 10 $50 million movies chasing 75 to $100 million box office. and
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of what you do when you pick games as a service, is you're going to spend a lot to hopefully make a lot, but a lot of the time you're going to make nothing.
Yeah, and I think especially with as far as Sony's concerned, a lot of that, and I get this isn't just Sony. This applies to everyone. Like, we could even look at 2XKO. I know they had a troubled production. I think this game should come out a little bit sooner. But if this game comes out not long after Dragon Ball Fighter Z comes out, and the 2D fighting scene with like an anime aesthetic is huge, I think this is a different story. I think Concord comes out closer to when Overwatch first drops. I think that's a different story. Um, but of course, it doesn't. It didn't. Um, but I can already. I'm gonna close my eyes. I'm gonna look 2027, 2028. We're gonna get an extraction shooter, and it's gonna fail in launch because that trend's gone. It's the
100%.
extraction shooters are arc raiders and marathon. If it succeeds, and then there's Escape from Tarkov. So like games as a service, there's such a tight grip on what the mind share is. Like if you're not Fortnite, if you're not Roblox, what are you? If you're a hero shooter, are you Overwatch or are you, High Guard? Are you Marvel Rivals? Like what? You gotta really try and earn your piece of the pie. And in High Guard's case, as someone who's played a couple of hours of it, I think it's perfectly fine. But with the way that it's come out, people are just kind of shitting on it. And I'm looking at Steam charts right now, or I was looking at it. Where did I put it? There it is. It's at like 4.5 thousand people right now playing it right now. That's not good for a multiplayer game.
and
That's only a
and
couple
that's the
weeks old.
big thing, right? Is if you don't when you're with the type of audience that plays these games, right? And that's
Hmm.
not just games as a service in this sense, but like even like Call of Duty and anything along those lines, right? It's like it's the kind of audience that you can't have them looking stupid on the internet for playing your game. So if
Hmm.
everyone is out there trashing High Guard, you're not going to get all of these people to come play, right? None of their friends are playing. You're going to
No.
get made fun of for playing it. So
Hmm.
you're going to go like this very quickly. Like you
Hmm.
have to capture the audience and fast, and then you have to hold the audience because if your friend's not playing it, you're not going to play this game by
No,
yourself.
no, nope. As someone who's played High Guard by himself because he couldn't get his friends to play, yeah, it's less fun like that, and I'm not entirely convinced to go back to it if I can't get people to play with. Now, Overwatch is a game I've invested hours and well, okay, weeks and weeks of time into, so I'll play that by myself any day. I don't have that with High Guard. I don't have that buy-in with High Guard. Um, and we're kind of just beating up on High Guard right now. But I mean, it's kind of the point of what we're talking about here. Like, it's a perfectly fine game, but the way it came out and the timing of it all, is not good. And this is just one of many examples. Like we already mentioned, Concord that shut down within week 1 or 2 of release, and now it's the game everyone points to. It's like, well, it's not Concord bad.
Yeah.
So, I
I mean, we have two. These are two perfect examples, right? Like 2XKO coming from Riot.
Riot, yeah.
Riot, if anyone, is like the perfect example of if you were to bet on a games as a service coming out and working, you
Mm-hmm.
would bet on a Riot one
Yep.
because they went two for two. They hit on League of Legends and then they hit on Valorant, which is
Mm-hmm.
crazy that
True.
they hit twice. So, I mean, fighting game is probably on the edge of what works as games as a service. I think you're kind of stretching it there.
Mm-hmm.
I guess is what is the auto battler for? They have is it Legends of Runeterra
Legends of
is
Runeterra is their
League of Legends.
card game. Um, Wait, all right, sorry. Legends of Runeterra is their digital card game. Um, I forget what the physical card game is called, but they also have Team Fortress Tactics. That's the auto battler,
Yes.
which is
Okay. So
also a hit.
Team Fight Tactics is what it's called, I believe.
Team Fight
Not Team
Tactics. What did I
Fortress.
say?
um, but they even for what auto battlers were at the time, they actually kind of hit on that one too, which is kind of crazy. So
Oh yeah.
like that genre never blew up into something really huge, but like that was really a for what it was at the time. Pretty big. So like if you were gonna bet on Riot Games, I can understand why. Um, putting the ethics of that company aside, but so it just shows that even the best can't hit every time, even with
Mm-hmm.
how good they have of a track record. And then you have the other side of it of Marathon and Bungie, where it's like Marathon looked like it was dead when everyone first came out. Everyone saw it, and then they
Yep.
had the art controversy. It looked like they were going to spend a ton of money, die on the vine, and then Bungie was no longer going to exist.
Yep.
And then they went into hiding. They came back after Arc Raiders came out, and extraction shooters are all the things, and they made the changes that they needed to make. And now it looks like Marathon might be like an incredible moneymaker for them. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's how easy the whims of this thing can go one way or the other. That's where the luck comes into it. Like
Yeah.
Marathon
Mm-hmm.
got lucky. They should have died. The
I
art stealing should have happened and they should have died. And then they just had incredible timing.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a combination of they've got the stuff, we listen to feedback, and then we hit the timing just right. I'm just as shocked as you are that anyone's talking about that game and anyone's excited for it, and yet I'm kind of excited for it. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's really interesting. That one feels more like an exception rather than the rule, but I don't know. We'll see. Um, but yeah, that just goes to show you can't make good games hit all the time. Shigeru Miyamoto, 1997. Okay, so let's talk about. We're gonna move on from that. We're gonna talk on what Xbox has in store for 2026. I don't know if you've seen any of this, Austin. Tom Warren, who's a big Xbox insider, he gets a lot of scoops on a lot of things. He posted an article on The Verge last week, and he says a lot in this article. Some of the bigger beats I wanted to hit on, because we've been wondering. We had a developer direct not all that long ago that gave us a release window for Fable, a release date for Forza Horizon 6, if we're ignoring leaks, and what else? Kiln, but who cares about Kiln? So real quick, some of the bigger beats. Halo campaign evolved. People thought it might drop closer to the anniversary of Halo, but it actually is targeting the summer of 26. Gears of War E Day is targeting the second half of 2026. We already know about Fable and Forza Horizon. Fallout 3 Remaster is in active development. There's a new Xbox controller planned this year, possible Xbox Elite Series 3 controller. And yeah, those are the big beats he also mentions here in this
And
article. Mm-hmm.
next
Um,
gen potentially coming 27, according to
27.
the
Mm-hmm.
analyst or whatever her name is.
AMD
Analyst.
CEO Lisa Su hinted that they could launch its next gen Xbox in 27. And yeah, they're looking at Game Pass options for PC, but uh, no one cares about that. So we're going to talk about some of this bigger stuff. Austin, how does this make you feel about Xbox moving into 2026?
Interestingly, well, I guess this kind of goes with, I don't know if you saw the GDC survey that came out
Mm,
uh in the last couple of days,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and how Xbox is firmly like third on the list for, it's like half of PlayStation in terms of developers and wanting to make games for that platform.
Oh, interesting.
This clearly this clearly shows that, in
Yeah.
that they, I mean, not that they're the only ones. Everyone is planning around GTA 6, but
Yes.
they've clearly planned their releases to avoid GTA 6.
Mm-hmm.
Halo coming in the summer, Gears being the only one that we have firmly in, could be any time in the second half, right?
Yeah.
Kilns first half, Fables fall of 26. So we know that's coming in September or October. They're going to give themselves a wide breath from the mid-November date of
Mm-hmm.
GTA 6, and then Forza Horizon's coming in May. So none of those are going to be around it. So they really, the only one that's potentially up for sacrifice to uh the the chainsaw that is going to be GTA 6 is Gears of War E-Day. But maybe they're just not going to have an end of the year game. Maybe that'll also release.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one releases, like Fable releases in September and Gears of War in October, and then that's as close to the end of the year they get. But the point being, they're just not the top tier anymore, and they are clearly slotting themselves in as if they know that, which is good. You shouldn't pretend you're something you're not. But
Mm-hmm.
that's a far fall for Xbox at this point.
Yeah, and I think it really is. I kind of want to give him a little bit of credit here. I think you look back, what would that have been? 2021, 2022. Um, the head of Game Pass, Aaron Greenberg, was quoted as saying that we want to give you a big first party title like once a quarter, I believe is what he said. And they just could not deliver on that. For like 2 or 3 years, they could not deliver on that. Now that we're starting to hit that cadence of bigger titles from first party developers, from Xbox game studios, are coming out more frequently at a regular pace. It almost feels like a little late, and they've already shifted how they're positioning themselves. They're not so much like, hey, we're the people that made Halo, we're the people that make Gears of War. They're It almost feels like they're more focused on, hey, you can play us wherever you want. We have these controllers that could connect to the internet. So if you're playing on cloud, guess what? There's even less latency than there might have been before. Um, while they're still focusing on these sort of titles, it almost feels to me, I've been feeling like this for a while. It's not just what Tom Warren's been talking about here, but like they've repositioned themselves to be, hey, we know we're not the best console on the market. We know we don't have the best first party titles, but we have the best service that allows you to play your games wherever you want, however you want. Um,
I
so
think it's definitely true. Like, not this has been going on forever, but the console war is dead. And the console war
yeah,
is dead not because, not necessarily because Xbox lost, but because Xbox chose to just not fight the console war anymore.
hmm
Like, they clearly made the turn, and to this, I still think it's the right turn.
thousand
And
percent.
like, I actually think that PlayStation is kind of behind in this sense
Mm-hmm.
of they've just decided that what they are is you can play games on our platform everywhere, and we're not going to make money on the way you play, in the sense that, like, we're not going to make money on consoles. We're going to make money on the fact that you buy a game in our system and you stay in our system forever,
Mm-hmm.
because you can play that Xbox first party game on your Xbox, on the go, on your Xbox Ally, on your PC, on your TV, on wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you can play it, and that fits much more into the Microsoft world of like software, right? So
Hmm.
they've gone the way of like what they're good at. But it also comes along with the fact that the reason that their lineup looks like it does for this year is because all of their uh, new IPs failed.
Right.
They like every single one of these IPs is something old, right? Halo, Gears of
The
War,
stuff we're
Fable. Now
excited
this
about,
is a
right?
remake, or not a. This is a reimagining of the Fable world, right? They're kind of rebooting it, but
Yeah.
it's what it is. Forza. I mean, they're on game 6, right? Kiln is new, but not necessarily. I don't think it's a first party.
It's Double
It
Fine, so yeah,
is.
it is.
Oh, it is. Okay.
But it's
So,
Double Fine. That's
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 something new,
caveat
but
thing. Yeah.
right, right. But it's not like, they really were when they started this Xbox One generation, like they had all of these new IPs that they were going to come with
Hmm.
alongside of their old stuff, and all of the new stuff got canceled or failed.
Right.
And so that's the issue, right? Sony kept making new uh IPs. They have Horizon and they have like all of this stuff. They've failed in their own sense with the things like Concord and whatnot, but
Hmm.
ultimately, from a first party perspective, they still blow Xbox out of the water.
Yeah.
And so they've just kind of diverged in this really interesting way. And that's fine. I mean, they're both Xbox's revenue is up. It's just that its console sales are down, and that's what they want,
Right.
effectively.
Yeah, and I know they've talked about, Sarah Bond at least has said that their next console will be a premium console for premium gamers. Um, it's something along those lines, and so we'll see exactly what their position on that will be as we get to it. Maybe it is more of a PS5 Pro situation where it's like only someone that like truly cares about fidelity is going to buy that. Maybe that'll apply to this. Because I
What does
do,
that mean for the Series X then? Because that's the Series X, right? Like,
yeah, I don't know. I truly don't know because they
I
haven't
mean,
done. Hmm.
the thing that's so weird about that with the console is, so they announced that they're gonna, or I said this is a leak, it's not an announcement, but it says there's gonna be a new Xbox controller planned for this year. So they're gonna release a new Xbox controller, and then next year they're gonna have a new generation of console. Why wouldn't you bring like I mean the Elite series controller came out, not with a new generation, right?
Did
But
not
like the
correct.
Xbox One controller and the 360 controller came out with a new console. So what is happening here with this like weird, they're making a new controller, but it's not coming out along with the new console? Like that makes me think the console is farther away than even the AMD CEO is hinting at there.
Yeah, and I know they have an idea of how production of all this stuff works, so I'm not gonna say it's that, but I have
Well, I
to
mean, the
wonder.
reason she was saying it is because she was
Hmm.
marketing the fact that it's going to be a new AMD
AMD
sock
driven.
in
Hmm.
the new console.
Yeah,
So, like,
thousand
clearly,
percent.
she would know
Mm-hmm.
that if they're going to be in that console, like that, this thing is being made.
Thousand
But
percent. Yeah,
it just, I don't know, is maybe. I mean, you could make the argument the reason they're doing it is because the controller is really about XCloud, and
I
I mean, I can
that,
hear
that
that.
that's
It's
what I
not,
think it is, if anything.
it's along the same thing of like the Stadia controller, right?
Hmm.
I get that. It's just that it seems odd. It seems like an odd way to go about it.
It does, and if you do plan on announcing a new console this year and then also releasing a new controller this year, it feels like that's something you might want to package together, unless you have something else in mind for the next console's controller. Um, I don't know.
But one upside to that, though I guess this is not really an Xbox issue
Hmm.
generally, is that does mean that the controller will be backwards compatible to the older generation since it'll come out before the new generation. So
Yeah,
that's an A plus for consumers on that one.
yeah, 1,000%, 1,000%. But also makes me wonder. I think I'm gonna switch it up a little bit as we move into this next story, if that's okay with you, and talk about
Mhm.
Sony's new controller patent. Um, this is a weird one. uh,
Without a doubt. This makes anything that Xbox controller was gonna do look paltry.
Yeah, so I'll quickly run through it. This is again Chris Scullion over at VGC. Sony has obtained a U.S. patent for a special controller with a touchscreen that lets players choose where the buttons should go. It was filed back in February 23, but was issued last week, and is described as designs and methods for a game controller. So essentially, where your buttons would be, it's just a touchscreen, and you can customize where the D-pad, sticks, or action buttons should be positioned on the controller to best suit their personal taste. Um, this is also with accessibility needs in mind. Let's see. You can also, it looks like you can resize buttons, even remove buttons altogether for certain games. Um, Trying to see. There is also a mention of, it senses pressure and heat from your fingers, so it's not all just, I'm pressing down on this. So I, this is odd, Austin.
100%. Something tells me that this is never going to exist because
Yeah.
there are just too many very obvious issues with this. For
Mhm,
example, how do you develop a game for a controller that doesn't have a set number of buttons?
mhm.
Like that, just a core premise. Like the reason why, in our modern day, keyboard rebinding is way more common. But when you make console games, you're under the understanding of how many buttons there are and therefore what you can do with it. In this case,
Yeah.
someone could have two buttons or someone could have 80 buttons. You have no idea.
Mhm.
So, how do you code a game that way? And then, how do you know where your buttons are at any one given time? Like, if there's no tactile feel to the screen, in like when you're playing a video game on your phone, right? The screen you're looking at is the screen you're touching. So it's a lot
Right.
easier to understand where your fingers need to press or touch or
Mhm.
whatever the case may be. In this case, the screen on your controller is just a screen for the buttons. There's no gameplay. So you're looking at a television and trying to like remember in your head, wait, where did I put the A button? Wait, how big is the A button? Like, where does my finger
Mhm.
go?
Mhm.
Like, I just see no way that this functionally works for a mass market. I could
Yeah.
see it as a very weird way, like they talk about slightly, of accessibility,
Yeah.
right? There's as a small market, like custom controller type deal for people who have accessibility issues seems not like the best way to go about it, but a way to go about it, right? I think
Mhm.
Xbox's modular controller is a much better version of this
Yep.
for accessibility because you buy the pieces that you want and need, and they still have a tactile feel to them.
Mhm.
So you can understand where they are, what they need to do, and whatever the case may be. Um, but it's something. It feels kind of more like a someone had the idea, so let's patent it so no one else can do it,
Yeah.
more than I think this is something that's ever going to actually exist.
Yep. Yeah, that happens a lot with these sort of things. If you're like me and have been a Nintendo fan forever, you have probably scrolled Nintendo patents and you've seen something not necessarily exactly like this, but something akin to this where it's a controller with a weird concept that never sees the light of day. I think this is one of those things. I know Sony likes to experiment with the controllers. I mean, you see it with the PS4 controller, you see it with the what do they call the PS5 controller, like the Dual Sense or whatever, where you have like a touchpad. It's also a microphone. It's like five different
So
things
bad.
on top of being a controller. It's
And
ridiculous.
it's not used. That's the
No,
crazy thing.
no,
Like game developers don't develop for it.
no. It's used maybe with some launch games, but that's it. That is it. So I and you touched on something I really like there, like how you design a game around that. I think having a set number of buttons, I think creativity is at its strongest when you have restraints. You know what I mean? Like being able to do whatever you want. Like, I mean, you could look at, the original, let's just say the original Star Wars movies. Like they put together what they had with what they had, not with an unlimited budget like you might see in some of the newer ones, like the prequels or the sequels. And I think we all know which ones we prefer. Um, so I think there's something to be said about knowing what you're working with and being forced within those constraints to make what you want to make. But yeah, this is just an odd controller, not design. I don't know if this ever sees the light of day.
Yeah. And you talked about Nintendo there.
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo's the perfect example. They developed the Switch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a literal screen on your controller, and they still gave you tactile buttons because they knew, like, when you're playing on a television and you can't see the screen, you need to be able to feel the buttons to be able to press properly. And Nintendo doesn't like make competitive games, but imagine if you're like a competitive Call of Duty player or something. You would never use this controller under any circumstances because the 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 chance that you mispress a button because you don't know exactly
Mm-hmm.
where it is by feel gets you killed. Like that, just purely on that alone, no one would ever use it, right?
Excuse me, Nintendo makes Splatoon. You're not a true Squid Kid. Woo me.
Yes. Okay. You're so right.
It's
I
very
can't wait
competitive.
for that's in the farming simulator level of esports right there.
Damn, true. I can't even say you're wrong. But I mean, you even pointed at the Switch. I'd even go a generation further back and look at the Wii U, which is almost like a DS, but instead of being right in front of your face, you have the bottom screen in your hands and the top screen on the TV. And that console almost killed Nintendo. So yeah, I think that you avoid that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't think either of us think this will see the light of day. I think this is just Sony being like, "Hey, let's grab that. And maybe do something with that. You know, something like that. Not that. We'll see. We'll see." I think like the next gen Xbox, I think we're a little bit away from the PS six. I almost said seven for some reason. Um, but while we're talking about PlayStation, we have a state of play coming along. We don't have to spend too long on this. It'll be an hour long, Austin. I don't know if you know this. That's the longest state of play we've ever gotten.
It's interesting because when we talked about the developer direct and I
Yeah.
said 52 minutes or whatever it was felt really short. So it's interesting that this is the longest one that state of play that we've had.
I think the key difference between what this will be and what developer directs are is developer directs is a lot of talking heads. It's a lot of developers actually talking about the games. I think you only get like,
Sure.
well, that has like four deep dives into games. I think you maybe get one here, whereas the rest is just going to be
Mhm.
game after game after game after game. Some more exciting than others. Do you have any like thoughts or predictions on what we might see here? What
I have
2026 might
two
hold?
ones that seem super obvious to me.
Hmm.
The first one is Marathon. It feels
Mm,
like the Marathon has to show up here.
I think
It's
it's a good call.
so close to the release date,
Hmm.
and it's like we said before, Bungie has a sort of maybe kind of was or still is relationship with Sony that I'm still not 100% sure on, but they were at one point owned by Sony if they're not still. And so that one feels super obvious to me.
Hmm.
And then the other one for me is Blood of the Dawnwalker, which
Oh,
I could
okay.
definitely see them having a release date trailer for because we know
Hmm.
it's going to be this year, but we don't know when. So I could see that showing up here as well.
I didn't even consider that. The last time we saw that was that was at a state of play, right? I think last time we got a big showing from that.
Mm,
I want to say it
I feel like
was.
we
Oh,
I
was
feel
that
like
at
we
Game
saw more of
Awards?
it very recently. Yeah, I want to say it was like the Game
That might have
Awards.
been Game Awards. I'm mostly wondering if we've seen it at a state of play before, or not like an Xbox showcase. I think we have. So I think you're on the money with that one. I think we do see that. I think Marathon's a shoe in. I think it's because what that game drops in March or April, something like that, or May.
March, yeah. I think it's
Um,
March.
and I know we're getting a free weekend of that, just kind of like give people a taste of what that's like. So I think we get that for sure. And we get the date for that free weekend. I think that's a shoe in. Um,
March 5th.
okay. So yeah, I think we get the dates for that weekend here. I think we get more gameplay. I think yeah, we get yeah. I'll go a little for. I think we get a little bit of Saros, get a little bit more on that before that drops in April. I think. I don't know if we'll see Wolverine, but this is an hour long presentation, so it's always
Oh,
possible.
I think we will. That was the other one I was gonna
Yeah,
say. I think we get because Wolverine's in the same boat where we know it's this year, but we don't know when, right?
I guess that's true. I thought we had a window that it was gonna. Okay, maybe that was me assuming because it's Insomniac and they tend to do like October, September releases that it was just gonna drop then. But I guess we don't necessarily have a. I know we don't have a
There
date.
was there was a leak of the I'm not There was a leak that it just today or recently that
Hmm.
it's going to come out in quarter three, but
Okay, that makes sense.
maybe that leak falling right now even brings more credence to that of like it was, they're going to talk about it at the state of play. Who knows?
Yeah, I honestly, yeah, because I see them if it's not till Q3, maybe you get a little bit of a showing here. I think it gets a big showing come Summer Games Fest, and then maybe it gets its own state of play closer to release. So maybe we do
The
see it
the
here.
interesting thing with Wolverine is didn't we see it when was the gameplay reveal or whatever the last trailer was? Was that also at the Game Awards? That was really recent. Not
That would
it was
have
not that long.
been that no, that was a state of play. Um, and it wasn't necessarily a gameplay, it was more of a re-reveal. Like this was like what the story kind of looks like. We didn't actually see gameplay.
But I
Um,
just remember the one scene where he just vigorously
yeah.
murders a guy by stabbing him 1,000 times.
Because that's like that was the first time we had seen it after the game was announced, and then we got the voice actor for Logan as well in that same presentation. I forget when that was, but that was like towards the end of last year, so not too long
So
ago.
maybe we don't, because that was really recently.
hmm I mean, it's possible. I do think we get Ghosts of Yotei, their Legends mode, their games as a service, quote unquote, their raid mode. I think we get that. Maybe even a shadow drop. I don't play. I haven't played Ghosts of Yotei, so I have no horse in that race. But I know a lot of people are looking forward to that. Here's one, Austin. I'll throw this one at you.
Mm.
Um, I've seen a rumor on the streets, so take this with a massive grain of salt. Uh, Devil May Cry 6, I think, gets announced. I think
Hmm.
that gets announced. We know they have a good relationship with Capcom. You know, I think just about all the recent Resident Evil games have been announced here. I think we're due for a new Devil May Cry, so it makes sense timing wise. But again, take it with a grain of salt. I don't know. I think that'd be a big get.
For sure.
So I mean, we don't have
It's going to
to.
be really interesting. It seems like, you know, the fact that they put out that it's going to be over an hour, and we know that's the longest it's been. They've now put themselves in a spot where they better hit,
They
because state of
bad
plays are really hit or miss, because
extremely.
they do them so often that they're shorter and they usually have lesser information. Like you're talking about the developer directs, right? They get much more in depth on a lot less games in those ones.
hmm
Oh, the other game we're definitely going to see is Pragmata, right? That game has.
Oh, there's a strong chance for that. There's a strong chance. That's out in April. That's also Q1 or Q2, right? That's pretty soon.
Yeah. But anyway, so they better hit it on this one because
hmm
they're getting everyone a little bit more hype for this one than the other ones. If they don't actually come with some heat,
Yeah,
there might be a little backlash on that one.
yeah, yeah. Oh, you know what? You know what? Final thing I'll throw out as what we might see. I think we do see that 2.5D God of War Metroidvania. I think we see that here. I think that gets announced.
I, this is the first I'm hearing of this. What?
Oh, yeah. Oh, this was rumored a lot last year because it was God of War's 20th anniversary. It was one of their anniversaries. I don't remember exactly which one. I think 20 sounds right. But there was a rumor going around that there's going to be like a 2.5D Metroidvania from Sony Santa Monica. Um, and it just kept getting pushed back because it wasn't where they wanted it to be. And I think we're finally at a point where the game's ready to be shown, and it's probably coming out soon, if I had to guess. Um, so again,
That's
that's pure speculation. I don't know, but
that's crazy because that so works. Like Kratos in a Metroidvania just
hmm
as a concept is just like that's an elevator pitch that I would fund off one sentence.
yeah, no,
But
it's such a not good idea, but yeah,
this is a this is a slight tangent, but along the
okay,
same lines of how God of War has now done a roguelike and they've done their main series games and they're doing this Metroidvania. The news came from Obsidian that they're not that
mm,
Avowed and Outer Worlds 2 both underperformed
yeah, I
and
forgot about that.
they're gonna not do Outer Worlds 3
hmm
and they're gonna do more games in the Pillars of Eternity / Avowed world.
hmm
Both of those, I'm glad they're doing more in the Pillars of Eternity / Avowed world because I think that world could fit a lot of different games in it. But the
Yeah,
Outer Worlds also feels like that to me. I'm
Mm.
kind of sad that they're not going to do anything else in that world because the whole idea was it was built in the sense that each pocket of planets is isolated enough that you can do different things with different stories and they connect in a grander sense, but they are also separated.
Hmm.
And so I'm a little sad that they're not going to try something different in the Outer Worlds world of
Yeah.
like not a first person action RPG, but something different. Like I feel like it could have the whole idea of this hyper exaggerated capitalism, you could have really done a lot of things in a lot of different genres.
Hmm.
So a
Yeah.
shout out to Sony for being willing to do that with God of War, and I'm a little sad that Obsidian won't do the same for Outer Worlds.
Yeah, and I'd even say, supporting Sony Santa Monica for, throwing that idea out there, just
Yeah,
God of War Metroidvania, it's not on my bingo card for what, I would think of, but it's such a not good idea. Um, it's such a,
but it's also the
yeah.
perfect thing of like I laud Obsidian for a lot of things,
Hmm.
and part of that being like they don't they don't mind doing larger and smaller scale games, right? Like
Right.
they'll do Fallout New Vegas and Avowed and Outer Worlds,
Mm.
and they'll
Pentiment.
also do Pentiment, right?
Hmm.
And they'll also do Grounded, which is an entirely different,
Completely
kind of
different.
game.
Yeah.
And so this as like a smaller thing, right? This Metroidvania totally fits in the like we know the rumors are they're doing Egyptian God of War.
Hmm.
Uh and this fits right in to fill in the time in between. It's a much smaller scope game that's in the same world that totally makes sense and it fills in the space
Yeah.
while they have most of their studio making Egyptian God of War.
Hmm. Yeah, it's an easy move. It's an easy win. All I can think of is the Prince of Persia, Metroidvania, and I think they're going to be. I don't want to say similar, but pretty similar. I feel like that's why this is going to work. This is going to be a win for sure. But yeah, we'll see. We don't have to wait too long. The state of plays as a recording on Thursday. We may or may not be back next week to discuss. Unless I'm sick
We'll
or
have to heat
Austin's sick
check it.
again.
How
Yeah.
how hopefully I don't get sick again. That would suck.
Yeah.
We'll have to heat check whether or not it's worth coming on to do an
Yeah.
episode about it.
There's a non-zero chance you'll hear from us again in a week. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us, Austin. Is there anything you want to shout out before we head out of here?
Mm, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
Get out
Well.
there and play some games. Don't just play the game that you always play.
Mm-hmm.
Go find. You know what's crazy? So, all right,
Mm-hmm.
tangent again.
Tangent.
Tangents unlimited. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's incredible the number of free games that you can get nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Between free games that are released like every week on Epic Games or PlayStation or Xbox or Steam, whatever the case may be, and things like Amazon Luna, where you just get a catalog of games, not necessarily for free because you have to have Prime, but effectively for free.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible the depth of games that you can get for little to no cost today. So don't just play that, Call of Duty every day or Madden or whatever your top game is. Go find you can still love those games. I love Call of Duty too. I don't, the new games aren't as much for me, but I've spent weeks and weeks and months playing Call of Duty. But go play that other game. Go find that weird obscure game like Void War,
Say that
which
again.
notably got DMCA'd by a fucking Creative Engine or
Really
whatever they're called that owns Warhammer. Go
whack.
find that weird little game that you see on your Steam page or whatever the case may be, and go buy that. Try that out. Try
Mm-hmm.
something new.
Mm-hmm.
It, the video game, despite what people like us, and we're not saying that we're these people, but in this world of like podcasting and news and all of that, despite everyone crying afoul that video games are woke and bad and there's nothing cool coming out anymore, they're fucking wrong. Just
They're
period.
wrong. Dead
Like
wrong.
get your head out of the AAA space, and there is so much incredible stuff coming out. You just got to go find it.
Just quick example, all right? You know those guys that made Peak? One of the best games of last year? They have a game where you're a
Mm-hmm.
crab and you fight Dark Souls
Yes,
bosses.
they do.
It's on Game Pass. Another Crab's Treasure. Go check it out. You can have a gun if you want. Uh,
Yes, you can.
Ball X Pit, really addicting. Like this is
Oh
just on
boy.
Game Pass alone. All right, you got plenty of great options on Steam, on Epic, wherever you choose. Celeste is a great game. And a lot of these games are going to be a lot cheaper than the next Call of Duty or Madden. And they're, yeah, you get what you pay for with these sort of games. So I'm always going to root for indies. Expedition 33, indie game, whether you like it or not. Um,
Hilarious. Okay. Now I'm just like this is a funny tie back into what we were talking about
uh
before.
huh.
Don't be don't be Sony, all right? Don't be the I'm going to drop $1 billion on 5 $200 million games as a service, right?
Hmm.
That's your
Hmm.
AAA games. That's you spending $70 on the next Madden or $70 on the next Call of Duty. Be like Annapurna or A24 or someone like that. Drop like 50 million on 10 movies and try and get those nice solid $100 million $150 million routine returns. Buy that $5 game, buy that $10 game,
Yeah.
buy that $20 game.
Yeah.
Support the small creator, the ones that are actively out there looking for you to buy their game and to have your feedback to make their games better, unlike Madden or Call of Duty or whoever you want to put in there who's just looking to gouge you for every dollar they can.
Hmm. Yeah. A lot of great games that go undiscovered. You should absolutely check them out. But I think that's gonna do it for us today, Austin. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. I'm getting distracted looking at all the great games there to play on Steam. Um, we'll be back potentially next week. I might be back with some more Resident Evil 4 remake. You never know. Speaking of indie games, um,
Okay. Yeah. 100%.
small
Definitely an
developer
indie game.
Capcom.
Yep.
Small developer Capcom.
Yep.
So yeah, keep an eye on that. Stay subscribed. If you want to stay up to date with everything we're doing here, leave a comment down here. What are you thinking about Sony's PlayStation controller patent? Why are you gonna eat it?
Do
Why are you gonna
you
get
want
it?
to play Call of Duty with a touchpad? Does that sound
Yeah.
fun to you?
Does that sound good to you? Stupid little fart sniff. Anyway, leave a comment, leave a like, all that good stuff. We'll talk to you later. Bye bye.